Gold Beach, nature's wild side. It's become a tradition. Gold Beach Glass Float season February 1st through April 30th. Thousands of floats are placed along the beach. Find one and it's yours to keep. Find out more at visitgoldbeach.com. Gold Beach, nature's wild side.
Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, please.
Summer Madison, position 1.
Larry Grant, position 2.
Anthony Pagano, position 3.
Becky Campbell, position 4.
Tammy Conklin, position 5.
And Carl Popoff, Mayor, and City Administrator Jody Fritz is present with us as well. All right, we've got a proclamation to begin with, and therefore I better put on these glasses. This is a proclamation. Now it's all fuzzy out there. I look at you guys out here with these glasses, and then I get a headache. Don't take it personally. What I mean is that they're reading glasses. All right, this is a proclamation declaring March as Self-Injury Awareness Month. Whereas 2 million Americans currently engage in self-injury with methods like cutting, scratching, bruising, and hitting themselves, along with other more harmful methods. And whereas self-injury is used with individuals that are unable to handle intense feelings, and so they turn to self-injury as a way to express their feelings and emotions, and whereas self-injury can start at any age, but most people who self-injure start at puberty, and whereas self-injury ranges from 12% to 37% in adolescents, and 12 to 20% in young adult populations, and whereas the incidence of self-injury is the highest among white male adolescents, and whereas 70% of those with a history of self-injury have attempted suicide at least once, and is the highest during the first 6 months after an episode, and whereas those who self-injure report that once they started, it is hard to stop, and that they feel like self-injury takes over their lives, and whereas the
I might have a typo there.
Okay, there is a need, I'm assuming that.
Yeah.
There is a need to break down the common stereotypes surrounding self-injury and to educate parents and medical and educational professionals about the condition. And now, therefore, to increase awareness of self-injury as a public health issue that needs to be taken seriously, I, Carl Popoff, Mayor of the City of Gold Beach, hereby declare and proclaim the month of March 2020 as Self-Injury Awareness Month for the City of Gold Beach. Be it further resolved that the city encourages all citizens to be informed on the warning signs and address this issue with our youth. Thank you. Clayton? Now, I don't know if it's just been me in the last few months haranguing people out there about needing to volunteer for. Yeah. Did you have?
Can I accept it? Can I speak?
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't see on here where you wanted to speak.
Yeah. Well, I always like to speak too.
No, all right. Go ahead, Clay.
Thank you so much. Gordon Clay, Chairman of the Curry County Suicide Awareness and Prevention Council, and I'm in Brookings, Oregon. Question: what are boys less likely to do than girls? Boys have been brought up to be in a culture of self-feelings. Big boys don't cry, handle it, don't ask for help, man up, and the messages go on. So when it comes to self-injury, they go numb. Why should they be concerned? Why should we be concerned? People often keep a secret, but the urge to self-injure isn't uncommon. Over 2 million Americans currently engage in self-injury. When it's the groups the big groups are adolescents and young people, but all people of all ages self-injure. Myth, one of the misconceptions is that only females do it. While girls 14 to 17 are hospitalized 4 times more than boys, 30 to 40% of the people who self-injure are males, and the highest segment is being white adolescents. Self-injury means hurting yourself on purpose. For boys, the most common method is hitting themselves or an object or the wall or cigarette burns. The most common for girls is cutting with sharp objects or pulling out hair or picking at wounds to prevent healing. Myth, people who self-injure enjoy the pain or can't feel it. Actually, self-injury most often hurts. Sometimes feeling the pain is the whole point, to reconnect on their own body and just feel something. Myth, self-injury is untreatable. Although it can be difficult to control or stop, most people are able to stop at some point because it is most often used as a coping mechanism. However, the practice particularly does not stop until the individual has found methods to cope and is fully ready to stop. Myth, self-injury is a suicide attempt. Most studies find that self-injury is often undertaken as a means of avoiding suicide. What is important is to get a handle on it before the pattern becomes well established, since 70% of those with a history of self-injury do attempt suicide at least once. Myth, there's nothing I can do. There are many ways that you can help. The easiest is by listening and being as supportive and understanding as you can. Most importantly, don't give up. Instead of scolding or looking down on someone for doing this, just let it be known that you care. I've got much information. March is Self-Injury Awareness Month, and I've got a lot of information on the website at zeroattempts.org/selfinjury.html. If you or someone you care about is in crisis, or you think immediate action is needed, text SOS at 741-741, or contact your doctor or mental health crisis services, or go to your local emergency room. On an additional note, I'd like to remind you all that the Curry County Commission Suicide Awareness and Prevention Council, we're having our second meeting, or our third meeting shortly, is still looking for a person from city government here in Port Orford or down in Brookings. And that and faith-based are the only ones of 15 categories that we're missing. And I think they're two very important parts. And it could be the mayor, a council person, or the city administrator. And I'd just like to leave one of these for each of you. This is the information about the post and the application, and would really like to fill that position because we've got a lot of work to do, and we really want to cut down our suicide issue here in Curry County.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the...
By any chance, this question, do you
Yeah.
have any statistics or any numbers as far as the number of people within Curry County? I mean, I'm not talking suicide now, I'm talking self-inflicted injury.
No. This is a really tough topic. What I know is I've talked to the therapists that work with the kids in the school, and it is a major problem here.
So,
And it's well hidden. That's why boys don't get recorded as often, because what self-injury is generally considered is cutting. And so everybody talks about cutting. Well, it's the girls who cut. And the boys pound walls, they burn themselves, that kind of thing, and nobody thinks about that. But the actual research shows that girls and boys are almost at an equal level for self-injury. And it starts at puberty. And most of it happens as before you're 24. But elders self-injure, and there is an issue in there, and it's somewhere, the national statistics is 7% of the population. And that's a lot of people that are doing this undercover and hiding it and in shame about it. If you see somebody with long sleeves when it's really warm out, or a turtleneck, that kind of thing, might just ask, are you okay? And know that I'm here to help, and I want to talk to particularly parents, because parents don't have any clue.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the time here.
You're quite welcome. All right. In the beginning, we actually have applicants for some very, very important positions within the city. I've stressed this, just how important these positions are on the planning, or not, urban growth committee, planning, and what's the other one? I know.
Budget.
Budget,
Budget committee.
thank you. And it's just a pleasure to see people that are willing to go ahead and step up to the plate at this time. So I'm going to first call upon Mr. Craig Chance, and then I'll explain the little interview type of thing that we do, sir. Basically, what we do is that I will give you approximately 3 minutes or so, if you wish to, elaborate more on why you would like to be here than what you've said within the application. At that time, each counselor, and I'll start with position 1, and go through, and they will have an opportunity to ask you a question, or any questions that they might have, and then of course you'll have the opportunity to answer them. Once they get around, if I have a question or anything, then I'll ask that as well at that time. But that's basically the ground rules, and I hope I don't have to repeat that for the next person. So at any rate, the floor is yours right now, sir.
All right, my name's Craig Chance. I was born and raised in that big city of Southern California with millions of people. I'm sure there's a lot of transplants here from California. My wife and I, as we got toward retirement age, we did a 2-year investigation of where we wanted to move, 9 different states, several different communities. We chose this village of Gold Beach after visiting it 2 times. So I have a vested interest. I bought my home. It's my forever home. It's our only home. I really love this community. I want to offer what I can do to help this community stay the village that it is and have the best value for all their expenditures.
All right, thank you, sir. And of course, you're going for the budget committee?
Yes.
All right. In fact, as tonight, we are going to be trying to determine the dates for the budget meeting, which should be coming up in April. So with that in mind, Councilor Madison, do you have anything?
No, just thank you for applying and stepping up.
My pleasure.
All right. Councilor Brennan?
I have no questions.
All
His
right.
qualifications seem
Thank you, sir.
very good.
Councilor Pagano?
I have no questions.
Councilor Campbell?
I am very glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you want to serve. And I'm going to ask you a question just because I think somebody should. It says here that you have extensive work in, if I can find my question, in zoning and planning. I was wondering if you'd tell us a little bit about that.
And that must be somebody else.
That's.
Even though I have done real estate for 20 years.
That's the next person. See how I was
But-
trying to be smart? and
But
ask
I
that
have never
question?
worked in a zoning or planning commission, even though I have my real estate broker's license. I sold new homes, resell, had my own business. So I'm familiar with that, but the budget committee was open, so that's why I chose to go with that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Councilor Powell?
I have a similar question. Would you consider being on both committees? I say that because the planning commission is typically, what, 5 or 6 meetings a year now?
Not many, because.
And the budget committee is usually 1 or 2. So you could technically serve on both, so maybe think about that.
Okay, yeah, I'd be willing to
It's,
want to, like I said, I'm going to die here probably.
yeah.
So I want to do whatever I can to help this place be the great village that it is.
Having negotiation skills, what you listed, is really good for both. Trying to get down to what you want to improve. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Actually, what Councilor Coughlin suggested was what I was thinking as well, too. Budget committee normally is one day, one night a year, at most two. All right. Planning and zoning, that is usually the third Monday of the month, and that's a monthly meeting. What I would suggest, if you were interested at all, sir, is to attend the budget committee, and then at that time decide whether or not that you just might like to go on and continue to be a member of our little family here on the zoning.
Will do.
I would appreciate it.
Okay.
It would be great. I don't have any questions. I just want to echo what everyone else has pretty much said and thought. We just want to thank you so much that you were willing to go ahead and step up to the plate. Be honest, it's been harder and harder to find people that are willing to do so. So you being here means a great deal to us. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and appoint you, and council, how does that sound to you?
And then I'll have the resolution for next month.
Okay.
And so when we talk later about the dates in April, we'll include you in that discussion so we can make sure that will be convenient, the dates that we pick will be convenient.
Okay.
So if there's nothing else, the fact is on the planning commission, you'd be able to work with my daughter, who, bless her heart, stepped up to the bar too. And that, quite frankly, that's an important committee that we have. You know, they all are, but this one deals month in, month out with things that actually affect other people's lives and what have you. So it's an important committee. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, I kind of spoke there. If you were planning on staying for the meeting, if not, we can,
Oh, I'm staying.
We can,
okay. So I don't want to presume to make you stay.
No, I'm staying.
Okay.
yeah, we can go ahead and
Okay.
appoint him now.
I meant for the dates for the meeting, because
Oh,
we weren't going
okay.
to talk about that till later, and,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
if he wanted to go, but if he's going to stay for the meeting, then that's okay.
Thank you. Well, sir, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so Lisa, the Planning Commission Perspective One, she had a work thing and is not here, but she will be here hopefully for the April meeting. But Linda is here and she is Perspective URA, Mr.
Well, Linda, bless your heart, thank you. There we are. My God, I knew we had three, and two of you are on the same page. All right. Did you hear everything that I?
Yes. Okay, so I decided I was going to move to Gold Beach sometime in the late 90s, and been working on it ever since then, and finally cut the ties to the Rogue Valley last May, and did it. And so I'm here, and one of the things I realized in my current position as a news reporter is that just about everybody I meet and interview and talk with serves on not just one committee, but two or three, or boards or something, or volunteering in the community. And so I thought, I'm not doing my part. And so I looked around to see what else I could do.
Well, bless your heart, thank you. Are there any questions? Starting with Councilor Madison.
None. Thank you for being here.
Councilor Renner?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It says that you volunteer for the Dunsmuir Historic Preservation District? Is that
Yes.
the Dunsmuir House in Oakland?
No. The city of Dunsmuir in Northern California. When I left the Bay Area, we moved there, car broke down there, and we stayed for 15 years. And and then moved to Oregon after that. So The city of Dunsmere is a very historic town, we have a town built in the 1800s. The house that we lived in was built with square nails. So they wanted to create a historic preservation district. They needed a photographer, and for whatever reason, they needed photographs of every roof in the historic preservation district. I have no idea, but I've been on every roof in the historic preservation district in Dunsmere, taking photos.
Interesting. Amazing.
Anything further?
Well, I know Linda, so.
You didn't know that about me.
I didn't know this much about you, no, I didn't.
Well, I don't have anything other than to once again thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, so Councilor Kaufman, you asked me to find the ordinance about appointing somebody else on the planning commission, but this could serve for, because right now, the URA says has to live in the city, so we could do, since we've had no interest from anyone else, I would suggest that we do that, and so I could have an ordinance for the next meeting for that. We would make a special dispensation because you live outside of the city.
Yeah, but
No, that would, yeah, definitely, that's fine with me.
I think for urban renewal, it makes sense too, because it is more of a bigger draw. You might have more talent outside the city than you do in, or especially since we haven't had any interest.
Well, and they do own property within the city, so.
I have 2 commercial lots and 2 residential lots that we're going to eventually develop into something. So,
As far as I'm concerned, you are appointed,
all right.
and council needs to confirm my appointments, but, and I don't see any of them not affirming. Well, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here. Real quickly, Administrator, how many UA?
None,
Hmm?
none. We have 4 positions and there's no one.
So we only have one now.
Yeah, so.
Okay, I'm going to
Lone
make
Ranger.
a pitch for that again, real quickly. This is an important, like I said, all of them are, but this is important as well, simply because this UA, or the Urban Renewal Agency, makes the determination how we're going to be, the direction we're going with it, the money that we get with it, how that's going to be spent, all of these things. As it stands now, with the lone exception now, it has been the city council who has been acting as the Urban Renewal Agency with no input whatsoever from the citizens outside. And I've said this in the past, so if you want a voice, I mean, let's put it real succinctly. There is no other type of government in this nation that you can affect more personally than your local one. Simple as that. That's how you get started. That's what you can affect. So if you have the opportunity to go ahead and serve, and once again, I'm not, my you here is a universal you or a Catholic you, if you know what that means and everything, is just, I'm speaking, I know probably to the choir or what have you, but if you get the chance to serve, it's not a bad thing to do. It really isn't. We've had problems in the past because, as Linda pointed out, it was, different. We have a lot of people serving on a lot of different, the same people serving on a lot of different things. And eventually, they get burned out. It gets tiresome. So when we can have people step up to the board, and then you will actually have a voice into how this money is being spent, what direction we're going, what we're doing with it. If no one steps up, then as I said in the past, and I'll repeat one more time, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. If you don't like what we end up doing, it's not our fault. Simple as that. So I want to thank you both very, very much, because this personally means a great deal. and I know it means a lot to the council as well, too. So thank you. Now I got off my soapbox, and we can move on. All right, and we've got citizens' comments here. Generally speaking, what we have is at the beginning and at the end. I give everybody 3 minutes to present their case. That's it. That allows us to go ahead and continue with the meeting at what I like to see a rapid pace. So at any rate, to begin with, I generally take them in order as I get them, but I'm not too sure what order I got these in. However, let's see, Candace? Yes, ma'am, come on up and state your name and just for the record, please.
Candace Callan. I received the city utility bill and under message, contrary to the Spectrum Internet billing statement, the city does not have an internet protocol fee. In August 2019, the city council formally demanded Spectrum remove the inaccurate fee title from their bills. They have refused, and I am asking you to not just sit on it. I'd like the city council to actively, doggedly pursue the removal of the city fee from the Spectrum bill. I know that you might consider that it's tangential because that's between Spectrum and its customers, but they are asking for money in your name and you are not receiving it. And I do not want it dropped, even if it goes to something as all the other cities on the coast in a class action lawsuit. So I don't want it dropped, I don't want it going on. It may not be big, but it's these little incremental nibbles at what's right. And I would like the city to actively pursue Spectrum.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, well, you're echoing our comments as well, too. We're not happy with that. And I know the city administrator has been working on that, and we're with you, believe me.
Well, when I asked the ladies at the window, and they said that the lawyer had requested, but then they were turned down, and I want to know, what are you doing going forward?
Administrator?
Well, basically, it's, Spectrum is this huge, gigantic corporation. They get a fee, they collect a fee for use of the city's right-of-way. Okay, that all of the franchise owners, Frontier, all of them, for the use of our public right-of-way, okay? But they have chosen to make that use of that, which they have always collected. Now they're putting it on the bill saying that it's an internet fee. And I personally think the reason why they call it an internet fee is because people feel like, well, I shouldn't have to pay extra for that. And I think that they tried to find the most inflammatory way, because when that first showed up on the bills, it was last summer. We had folks coming in, we didn't know anything about it and so I asked a gentleman if he could bring in his bill so I could see it, and very clearly. So we started contacting Spectrum, and they're very frustrating to deal with. They give you the runaround, they send you here, they send you there. So we sent them, the council actually sent them a formal letter where all of them signed it and demanded it. That was in September, I believe. They replied back that they were working on it. Well, here it is, however many, that's exactly it. They're thumbing their nose at us. So yeah, we'll send them another letter. But I think their view is that we're this little tiny city in Oregon, and what are you going to do
Well, and
about
that's
it?
why I was suggesting some kind of,
Coalition.
this must be happening in other cities besides Gold Beach, and if what it takes is something larger than Gold Beach, join forces.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you for coming in.
Yeah. All right. Beth? To the the record, please.
Hi, Beth Parker, Hidalgo, and here in Gold Beach, and copies for the tape and pass it down. I may or may not get done in 3 minutes, so I want you to
That's
get
okay.
a
I'll
copy
pick you
of
out.
everything that I'm submitting. I'm the director of the Prairie Homeless Coalition, and I'm operating the Southern Oregon Coast Resource Center at 29821 Colvin Street. And I'd like to share some data about, to demonstrate some of the work that we're doing here in Gold Beach with our residents that are dealing with extreme poverty and or homelessness. And I'd like to invite everyone in the room, if they'd like to come and tour the facility and see what we're doing firsthand in the community, please get a hold of me and I'll make that happen. We operate about 27.5 hours a week. We're providing access to housing applications for both ORCA and the Coos Curry Housing Authority. We have employment and career navigation services by Scabac and WorkSource Oregon, a clothes closet, showers, laundry services, and client-centered planning. What does that mean? We sit. I spend hour and a half with each client initially, and we do an intake, and I ask them, what are your goals? What are your goals? Not my goals, not what anyone else's goals. What is it you want to accomplish? And then we start breaking down those goals into steps, and we help walk alongside folks as they attempt to achieve their goals. I do have some questions to ask, and I don't expect answers tonight, but I would like some answers at some point when it's convenient for all those that need to do the research. I'd like to know how many contacts the Gold Beach PD has had with transients, which is a term used by law enforcement to define unhoused people, within the city limits in 2018. And out of those contacts, how many arrests were made? And then again, in 2019, how many contacts with transients within the city limits? And then how many arrests resulted in those contacts in 2019? The number of people, as best you can, that were arrested that may have mental illness diagnoses. How many contacts may have been diverted to our emergency room. And then how many referrals Gold Beach PD has made to the Southern Oregon Coast Resource Center in 2019. To clarify, we opened January 3rd. We got the keys to our facility in 2019. So we've just barely been open a year. But we have 200 plus clients in our database since we opened. We've accommodated over 600 visits. Just in February of 2020 alone, the shortest month of the year, we had 88 visitors to the resource center. We are experiencing an increase in unhoused people in Curry County and Gold Beach. There's a variety of reasons why that's happening. I'll share a couple. We had a 65-year-old male who's losing his housing here in Gold Beach because his transition from SSDI, SSI to Social Security retirement, along with his Medicare copay, has left him unable to pay his rent. And that's at Oregon Trail Lodge, one of the least expensive places in Gold Beach to live. In 2018, our community health assessment conducted collaboratively by both CCOs serving our Medicaid population in Curry County reports 39% of Curry County residents are rent burdened. And I'm going to suggest that that number has increased. That percentage has probably increased since that assessment was completed. And what that means is people are paying 50 to 80% of net income on housing, or even gross income on housing. And like I said, I think that 39% has probably crept up just a bit since 2018. The Community Health Improvement Plan implementation is underway. There's 7 categories of focus groups working to mitigate negative impacts on our community. One of those work groups is focusing on housing and homelessness. We meet monthly, Friday mornings at the Curry Library, 10 to 11:30 a.m. upstairs in the conference room. Any one of you are welcome to join us to help share how we address the lack of affordable housing in our community. The Coos Curry Housing Authority, which I serve as a commissioner, reports over 700 people are on the wait list for housing choice vouchers in their service area, which is both Coos and Curry County. And there are over 1,200 people on the Section 8 housing program wait list, with only 50 Section 8 units within their service area. Every subsidized apartment complex in Curry County currently manages a wait list of 1 to 3 years. So as you can see, there's really no relief for people experiencing situational homeless, let alone those who meet the criteria for what's defined as chronic homelessness. And those who've been, that's typically those that have been unhoused for up to 3 years, often resulting in mental illness as they continually living in crisis and unsafe critical conditions. We as a community can take a collaborative and coordinated approach to homelessness, whether you're a city or a county. Without consideration of a coordinated approach, we'll experience migration. We witnessed this when the county code enforcement officer began taking steps to remove an illegal encampment in Harbor. With nowhere for those living in the encampment to go, we began to see new faces coming through our door here in Gold Beach. To be clear, the Homeless Coalition is concerned with public health and safety. We understand the need to mitigate health and safety concerns. Some of you may not know that I have a public health background and experience as it relates to infectious disease control, disaster preparedness, and response. As a result of that background and experience, we understand the need to protect community members from the activities that increase the spread of disease and increase negative outcomes that come with groups of people gathering in locations that do not have the necessary services to prevent public health and public safety negative impacts. We seek the opportunity to work alongside law enforcement and code enforcement to develop plans that provide for services to mitigate public health and safety concerns that we all share. We have implemented programs designed to mitigate the negative impacts of homelessness. A couple of examples is we have what's called our sleeping bag and tent exchange program. We will give clients sleeping bags and tents. If they come back empty-handed and say it got stolen, it was damaged, whatever, we will not give our clients a second sleeping bag or tent. They have to bring in, I don't care what condition it's in, it can be ripped to shreds, but they have to bring it back to us because we don't want to see these items left in drainage culverts, under bushes, in parks. We don't want to burden our parks departments and public works departments with having to clean up after folks. Another program that we offer is a Homeward Bound program. To date, we've served 33 clients with this program and sending the furthest client to Wisconsin. We will not put people on a bus unless we know that there's a bear on the other end of their trip. So we confirm that there's either family support, there's a rehab bed, there's a shelter bed, somewhere for folks to go. But we have moved people out of Curry County that do not have the support network here that can find support elsewhere. We discourage people who may want to, in protest, camp or sleep in places that are visible, likely to attract negative law enforcement contact every day. We're losing that battle as regardless of where people bed down at night, they are at some point told to move on. As you may know, Curry County has no general population shelters. It's tough to give advice to people as to where they may sleep when there are no sanctioned and or supported resources available to them. There's a diversity amongst the population of unhoused in Curry. Those who are experiencing situational homelessness are anxiously and actively seeking housing that is simply not there. Or if it does exist, it's not affordable, or does not meet the criteria for eligibility for rental assistance from ORCA or the Housing Authority. In other words, rents are too high to qualify for rental assistance. At this time, ORCA has extremely limited ability to assist people seeking rental assistance as their funding has been depleted. New funding won't be available until June or maybe October. So what do we ask? We ask for the City of Gold Beach to consider hosting a series of workshops to consider options for how we as a community begin to mitigate the impacts of homelessness for everyone and all things considered. Continuing to move people along or create an environment where people experiencing homelessness having to constantly fear a run from law or code enforcement results in trauma on top of trauma, which concludes with people experiencing serious mental illness over time. The Coalition feels it's time to have comprehensive planning sessions to determine a path toward increasing access to safe, stable housing for all in Curry County. We're asking the city to take the lead by hosting workshops for diverse participants to include people with lived experience. in closing, I'd like you to take just a moment to consider how it must feel to be constantly told, you can't be here. Thank you for your time and patience as we navigate this difficult dynamic crisis. I hope to hear back from you with a proposal to address homelessness in Gold Beach, or at least come together and have a conversation about what we can do.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, do you have any questions?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
I was taking notes on your questions that you have for law enforcement. You wanted contacts with the Gold Beach Police for 2018.
With what are categorized, often in the CAD system when there's a contact, they're categorized as transient if they are unhoused.
So you want transient?
I would like to know,
Oh, you listed them. Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
and then, yeah,
The other question I had, which might be on the paper, I haven't read because I was listening to you. Mental illness arrests. So you're talking about, you want to know how many people were arrested, what we would call 5150 for mental?
or that would be categorized as someone having,
And is that 2019 you want that? Okay.
and the point I'm getting to is oftentimes we'll hear our sheriff make the comments that anywhere on any given day, up to 35% of people in our county jail have mental illness. And we don't have the adequate services to respond to those folks in an effective way. Jailing people with mental illness is not going to mitigate their circumstances. It's the catch and release often is what happens because we don't have adequate mental health services in Curry County in general. So what do we do about that? This is a huge issue to deal with, and I know none of us have all the answers to how to address homelessness in our communities. But I feel like, I have somebody in our office today who maybe the majority of the folks up here and even in the audience might even know. And when this person sat across me today and said, I love coming in here, it makes me feel good. And I've never felt that way before. She volunteers. And she's somebody who's been unhoused for a very long time, has lived in this community for a very long time. And so I think our approach is to offer some way for folks to build their self-esteem, to feel good about getting up every day and having something to do. We all know that we need to have worth and focus in life to thrive. And we're trying to provide that for folks that maybe haven't had that opportunity, or maybe they have, but they weren't ready. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Have you contacted Curry Community Health, who I believe is still our mental health?
We work with Curry Community Health. We have, Nancy Torney and I are case conferencing, if you will, when we can get clients to sign ROIs and we're able to legally have conversations about, their journey and their path. How can we support them? We do. What I understand now, we do have another provider in Curry County that is able to bill Medicaid, and that is Casa Psychology in Brookings, and she's got 5 providers in her office. So I'm hoping now that she is able to bill Medicaid, word gets out, and perhaps some of the primary care providers can start referring some of the folks to Casa Psychology, and that will help.
Yes, ma'am.
Follow-up question. The reason I asked is, we're the board of the city, and you're coming to us, partly because you have questions about our police department, and I'm wondering if you've gone to the board of Curry Community Health about the service that they're providing.
I have not gone to their board to talk about the service that they're providing. If you know, as you know right now, they're in transition and flex in a number of ways. So no. The answer to that question is no. I have not gone to their board and asked for yeah.
So if I may make a public point, our police department is not supposed to be doing mental health.
Exactly.
There is people that are trained to do that, and if they were doing their part, our office officers wouldn't have to do as much. We should never send an officer to a crisis problem if they could have gotten help in advance.
And my response to that is Gold Beach and/or Curry County, we're not alone in this situation. Across this country, particularly in rural America, there aren't enough mental health providers. There are not enough mental health services. Many law enforcement agencies are taking trainings, CIT training and other types of training, so that they are better informed on how to work in collaboration with mental health providers, crisis intervention team members, to address the mental health issues that they face day to day in their job. This is not criticism of any one particular department. We're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed across the country. I'm asking, how do we eat the elephant? Where do we begin? Can we come together as a community and make a determination as to how we're going to collectively work on the issues that we all are dealing with as it results to people who are unhoused? Because honestly, we're going to see more people unhoused before. It's going to get worse before it gets better with these statistics in front of us in our economy and our socioeconomic strata here in Curry County. We're headed down a path that's going to be very difficult to manage, and I would rather do it collaboratively in a coordinated manner. Again, if we increase services in one community and we don't do that in a coordinated effort across the community, we will force a migration, and none of us can afford that. And so, like I said, when the encampment was moved, that created a ripple effect. It created a ripple effect throughout the county. And I think that we need to be more mindful about how we address issues so that we're not causing undue harm to ourselves or other communities in the process.
I've got a question, actually, I'd like to direct it at our chief of police in the back there. I remember a long time ago when I was a cop for a while, that we had what we call police officer hold. In short, when we ran into people with mental problems, we had to address it, all right? Because obviously, if we didn't, something bad could have happened. But we also had the option of being able to take that person to a hospital where they would place them primarily in confinement for 24 hours for observation. Do we have that available to us now?
Yes. The way that, would you like me to come up there? Can you hear me good enough? I know you're kind of hard of hearing.
Thank you, Chief.
The way that the POH or peace officer hold works, RS dictates that as a peace officer, if I determine that the person is a threat to themselves or others, then I would take them to the nearest emergency room. At the point that the doctor intakes the patient, they're no longer under our peace officer hold. They're now under the record hold of the hospital and or mental health. And it could be up to 72-hour hold.
Up to 72.
Yes.
All right.
And we have one room at our hospital.
Are they using it? Because I've been hearing everybody, most folks are being diverted to Bay Area Hospital or even St. Vincent's in Portland. They're not. They don't have a psychiatrist on staff, from what I understand. They don't have, Curry General Hospital doesn't have the staff necessary to legally.
Well, see, that's the reason I asked the chief, is that at one time, we did have here a room that was designated. Unfortunately, it was torn apart, and we didn't have that room for quite some time. The new hospital being built, I did not know whether or not that had been reinstituted. It is a tool. It's a good tool. But one that the state legislatures and others in the past decided was not, I don't know, wasn't fair to the person, because it was infringing upon their liberty. So a lot of that was taken away at one time. So I'm just glad to hear that, and it used to be only 24 hours, and I'm glad to see it's up to 72.
Yeah.
But that's,
And again, I mean, we're all about, I mean, we're not suggesting that we don't need to take those measures with some of our folks in the community, not at all, in fact. And I wish, you know, I mean, it just seems like when a pendulum swings, it either swings all the way one way or the other. And now we're at a place where people are, we've had a lot of suicide attempts right here in Gold Beach, when in fact in the lobby of our mental health provider was most recently. And that person was diverted up to St. Vincent's. There's got to be a, I don't know, I just feel like we have to dialogue this. We need to at least start having a dialogue about how we as a community are going to address the situations. Right now, we're hearing from our clients that are lucky enough to have a vehicle, that they're being advised on where to park, which is outside the city limits, and when they go there, there's no services, and then eventually they get advised by sheriff or OSP that they can't stay there either. So, you know, I just don't know what the answers are. I'd just like to be able to dialogue around this issue so that we can maybe come up with some answers for how we deal with this situation.
yeah, it is a problem. There's no getting around that. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Let's see, Michelle. There you are. Couldn't see you back there.
Michelle Fritsch, here with Gold Beach Main Street tonight. What I'd like to let you guys know and ask is we are doing a celebration of 130 years of Gold Beach being changed from Ellensburg to Gold Beach. It's going to be a party at the port. We've already got some good things happening. We have the Ferguson Brothers playing for sure. We have Arch Rock Brewery going to be there. We have John Bruckert with his Wandering Pizza Aioli. And we have now several other art and craft vendors and some other food vendors that are all on task, and they're excited to do it. What I'm hoping is, well, let me give you, this is not a very good copy, but it's the best I could do at school. Goes out. It's going to be the flyer. We have right now vendor forms and sponsor forms. What we're looking, the primary goal of this is to bring Gold Beach back together as a community and have a good community celebration. And bringing in the historical aspects. I've got people working on some Indian stuff, so hopefully we'll have some kind of display. I'm looking for a gold pianer and kind of on that. Some logging, some fishing. ODFW might come down from Newport and do a fish identification thing, just to embellish on everything that we have here in Gold Beach to help our businesses, to help our community, to help it thrive, because it is awesome. I think we all agree with that. And so the goal is, hopefully this will just be the beginning of something even better, but because we're 130 years, changing from Ellensburg, it's like something that we want to really promote and use for a reason to get going for the first year. What she has passed around, it'll be a better looking flyer than what it is right now. If you look on the bottom right, the celebrating 130 years of Gold Beach, Oregon, underneath there it says established 1890. That's the logo that we're getting t-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that made for, to support it. Anyway, what I was hoping is maybe we can get some, maybe $1,500 from the TLT monies to help support the costs that we have for our band, for our banners, for primarily advertising and promotion to get this out. And we want to start with, before the float season is over with the visitor center, getting it out there so people will come back knowing. I know we're really booked up that, end of June, beginning of July, but I think it's great because if they keep coming back, that just helps everybody do even better. And so I'm not sure if I can just come and request that, or if there's something else I need to do to see if we can get that kind of support for the party at the port.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
There's, you need to fill out a promo grant request, and it doesn't actually come to the council.
Okay, so if I do that, then about how long do you think it will?
I usually look at it right away.
Oh, so you just review it and then decide yes or no?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, any other questions? If you guys know any local, we are totally promoting local artists.
One thing, you bring up the 130 years. Did you know that Gold Beach is celebrating its 75th?
Yeah, and I wonder about the logistics of all of that.
Actually, where it's been named Gold Beach.
Right, and then I saw Beth's sweatshirt and it says 1853, and I believe that's when it became Ellensburg, so I believe everybody's kind of using different numbers for whatever, but yeah, I did, and I wondered where the 75
As an
came.
Incorporated city.
Incorporated, there you
As
go.
an incorporated city, it was April, 24th, 1945.
Oh, okay. And I believe it was March something of 1890 where they actually changed the name, but the logistics didn't get through the courts until January of the following year.
Oh.
And so, yeah, so that's the research I've done. This was a couple years ago where I realized it'd be 130.
Yeah.
So I figured it would be a good way to bring the community back, because I know when I'd come and visit in the late 90s, excuse me, it was awesome on 4th of July. Everybody was out and doing things and supporting the fireworks, supporting just the businesses too. So hopefully we'll get, I don't know, we're just trying to help and improve everybody's business, and hopefully they'll come back in the off season as well. So, yeah, that's it. All right. And so I can just get that form to you and...
Yeah, you can pick one up in the office, and it may actually be on our website too, if the goldbeachoregon.gov, and if not, I can email one to Lindsay and she can get it to you.
Okay. All right, well, and actually, I think Summer's actually shown me that too. I just didn't know if I needed to. Is that the one we talked about before? Yeah. So, okay, all right, cool, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Forgive me, getting a little dry.
And speaking of Lindsay.
Yeah. And Lindsay, I think you have a report for us.
And I haven't said anything about the one thing, so.
Perfect. Okay, so I actually have it on the bottom of the sheet, but we might as well start with the good news, is that this weekend we were told, after updating forward with our memorandum of understanding between the city and Gold Beach Main Street and an updated budget, that we did receive the extra funding to continue this position for the whole year. So that's great news. So I'll be here the whole year.
That was from Ford?
Yes.
And that was Lindsay's work. She was the one that submitted the application. It was all her. So she did.
A lot of it was done before I came in. But so that's good news. And then also recently we attended a local grant writing workshop put on by Travel Oregon and Meredith Howe Friday ago actually. And then after that was over, we also attended a conversation with funders across Oregon and got to ask them some Q&A questions and kind of get that one-on-one to kind of see what we might want to pursue in the future. And then currently the Promotion and Outreach Committee is dedicated to getting vendors and sponsors for the party at the court, and that seems to be going really well. And then also right now Gold Beach Main Street has been working with Tim Harding with the 2020 USA World Jet Boat Championship Jet Boat Races. They have an event in May, and it's only held in the U.S. every 4 years, and this year it's happening, and so the Rogue River is the last leg of that race, which is exciting because that means that the award show and everything will be held in Gold Beach in May. And so they expect 15,000 visitors, and luckily by partnering with them, we're getting 10% of their sponsorship booklet sponsor funds. So that's a good fundraiser for us, and it's a good way to help draw people here, which is the whole point of Gold Beach Main Street. And then we are going to finish coordinating the day to set up our strategic planning, and hopefully once we get that figured out, because it's going to take some parts, because I'm sure we'd like to have our urban renewal agency liaison and a few other plans and that. So we're going to work on that, and then once we get that set up, I'll announce that to you guys soon. Any questions?
Any questions?
Congratulations on being funded for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And Lindsay's been
That's great.
doing a really fabulous job. She's been just a joy to have in the office. We really appreciate having her there.
Good to have you. Thank you, Linda. All right. Monthly update on the city's strategic plan goals.
Okay, so I we're getting late in the evening, if there it is, if you have any questions or you want to add anything or think that we need to look at stuff, let me know.
Anybody have any questions of the administrator concerning that?
The yellow highlighted ones are the
Right.
update for this month.
Right.
So if there's anything, questions or whatever.
No questions? Then we're going to move on to C, which is update a gas tax measure and the FAQs for citizens. The administrator and I talked about this a little bit this afternoon, and the idea of being able to get this information out to the public, questions and answers and what have you. We thought also that the press could help us with that as well, so that people are not misinformed, but rather actually informed as to why this is getting to be kind of a critical thing. So with that, Administrator, go ahead.
So last time in 2018, we didn't do any public outreach, and the reason for that was the year that we had done the survey. We had sent it out in the water bills. We also had a survey monkey where they could do the digital. So we felt like everybody kind of knew what was going on, but since it failed miserably, obviously that was not the case. So what I wanted to do, once it becomes a ballot measure, which I don't have the number from the clerk yet, we've given them all the stuff, and I think we're good to go because we haven't heard otherwise, but we don't have the measure number yet. Once we get that, then Mr. Newdall and I staff can't really talk about it other than to just provide facts. We can't be pro, we can't be con, we can just provide information. So what I tried to do was make the questions what I thought people would want to know, and to just try to be as, just as middle of the road as possible, not make it sound like, things are horrible or, oh wow, this is really wonderful, just try to answer the question. So what I would like from the council is, after you looked at this, are there any questions you feel that aren't covered? Because you are the folks that are going to have to talk to people about this. Will and I can answer questions, but we have to tread lightly because we can get in trouble with the Secretary of State if it appears that we're promoting it.
Yeah. Well, to begin with, I want to say that I thought, once again, you did a wonderful job writing those questions and answers up. I thought that the language and everything that was used was right down the middle, easy to understand. So thank you, ma'am. And with that in mind, Councilor Kim.
I just want to clarify what I think is happening. Once we get the number, city staff can't talk pro about this. And you're saying that then lies on the council, so we need to promote it.
Correct.
Do we need permission to promote that? I mean, could I literally go to the local radio station and say, I want to do a 5-minute blurb about this wonderful new tax?
Yeah,
elected officials, y'all?
Yeah, elected officials don't have the same constraints that public employees do. Now, I would suggest, and that's the conversation that you can have right now, because May is not that far away. But say, okay, is it okay if one of you goes and talks on the radio, and are you going to be okay with that amongst yourselves?
And the other thing I was thinking is an article for the local newspaper.
Well, I'm hoping,
I mean,
like as
could
Mr.
we
Mayor
write
said, that
something out?
absolutely.
Not that you're not doing a stellar job, but all of y'all.
Yeah.
Love you. I mean, I'm not trying to be smart aleck, but I could write something out, an article, and submit it to y'all. No? Yes? No? Okay.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I give you the number?
Pardon?
Can I give you the measurement?
How do you know?
Because it's already up, it's uploaded on their website.
Well, it would have been nice if somebody had told us.
8-100.
Okay.
Ooh, that's an easy one.
City of Gold Beach adoption of tax on motor vehicle fuel dealers.
Yeah, I was waiting to hear from the clerk's office, so, okay. So evidently everyone else knew before us.
Now that
Councilor
everybody
Kaufman, go ahead.
knows that speak.
Well, we can talk about it, but only in general terms. We can't be pro or con. We have to, that's why I tried to make the questions where they were just facts.
Yes, ma'am.
So speaking of facts, if I understand correctly, we're hoping to get about $143,000
Right.
from the street tax. And that's 1 cent in the winter and 4 cents in the summer.
Correct.
And if we put it on utility bills, we're gonna have to add about $5.
Well,
Because you said $2 was 28, so I'm thinking it's about 5.30 to get to 143. So that's really the message I think that's important, is that we don't have a lot of options. To be a fiduciary for the city, we need streets, and we need them maintained. So one way is you can pay for it in the gas tax, or our only other option is to put it on the utility bills, and that's going to be probably ratcheted up to about 5.25, if my math is right.
And that will get you, what's the word that they use? Recall. As far as I know, what you wrote in there was, if we did it with on the utility bill and what have you, we'd be generating something, what was $25,000?
well, because staff had proposed, because, you know, we didn't want to say $5, but staff had proposed $2. And it's not, I want to clarify that it is not increasing water utility rates. It's just that that's a mechanism to collect it because we send out bills for that.
Right.
But the downside to that is that it's only the customers that would get that.
Councilor,
I think our biggest thing to push through to people is going to be the fact that this is not for Ellensburg, this is for all our streets. So this is literally the streets that we use daily, not just the highway that the public is constantly using too. This is all of our street repairs.
Right.
Anything for state
yeah,
stuff.
it wouldn't be anything to do with Ellensburg.
Yeah, or most of
We don't
Hunter
own
Creek.
that.
There's only a few roads that we own out in Hunter Creek, but like Hunter Creek Loop, all that, those are still owned and maintained by the county.
Yeah.
So think mostly just Gold Beach proper and not Highway 101 or Ellensburg.
Real quickly, Councilor Kaufman, I'm going to let Councilor Brennan go first.
I just think that what the city administrator came up with as far as his question goes, it does answer a lot of questions that we didn't address maybe before about property tax. You know, people may think that part of the property tax goes to street maintenance or the water bill. So those things are important to make sure that information gets passed on and that it would be shared by everybody that comes and stays in town, just like Brookings does. You know, it's the 1 cent during the off season is on the residents or people coming through, but the 4 cents is when we get all the traffic here, and those people use our streets too. I mean, if they're vacation rental or wherever, they're driving on our streets, and that way it spreads the burden from just local people to the whole population, especially
Thank you, sir. Yes, Councilor.
I think you were joking about the recall, but in case you weren't, I think it would be remiss of my duty when I read a very lengthy streets master plan that says we don't have enough money to say that citizens, you have an option of a gas tax or a utility fee. That's really all we have. You can recall me, that's fine, but my job is to make sure that you have streets, and that you have water, and that you have sewer, and that you have police, and you have fire. That's my job as a city councilor. That's what I was elected for, and that's what I'm doing. I don't like taxes, I don't like fees, I hate them. I'm as frugal as the
We
next
all
person
do,
maybe
and
knows.
yes, I was joking about that,
Yeah.
the
So,
recall.
I think we
But the
need
point is that, and as you've heard me say more than once, the entire business of city government, particularly city government, is all about safety. Every bit of it is about safety. Police, fire, wastewater treatment, clean water, safe streets to drive on, everything's safety, and we've got to be able to do that, yes. At any rate, I think our best shot really is if we can go ahead and try to promote this a little bit better, because I've already heard from the public, at least a few people, not the general public as a whole, but a few, that they want to know why the old adage about trying the same thing over and over again and not succeeding is a definition of insanity. And they want to know why we're doing it again, all right? And they're upset with us doing it again. I knew we were going to run into that type of thing anyway. But if nothing else, with better information and a little better handle on what this is all about, hopefully we can get a better response this time. You were going to continue on.
Yeah, I wasn't finished, I'm sorry.
No, that's all
I do
right.
agree, I think it was Councilor Pagano that said, we do need to talk about, we are not the county, we don't have the county road fund. We're not the state, we don't have the state road fund. We do have quite a few streets, and they are all paved except for the tiny one on Feather Way.
The one I live on, thank you very much. You're a city councilor, lives on a gravel road.
So, but they were paved because the county gave us $1 million in the late 80s, early 90s. They're never going to give us another $1 million to take care of our roads. And probably rightly so. I'm not faulting them for that.
Right.
But since then, we've not really put into place any mechanism to fund our streets. And we've been told by our engineers, time. And the answer to that question, if you get that question again, is when we put it on the ballot last time, we didn't know the county was going to try to take over the city. We had 3 hotly contested races, and none of us could campaign for the street tax because we didn't know were they running against us because of the street tax, or were they just running against us by coincidence, or were there really 3 county employees trying to take over the city? We didn't know. We still don't know. But we do know that nobody campaigned for it. And
it was based primarily on what we returned, what was returned on the bill.
We expected people to understand,
Right.
and they didn't.
Right. Well, according to the appearance sake, it looked as if they did understand. What we had quite a majority opt for, when they responded to our request, to decide whether or not they wanted this fee, tax, whatever you want to call it. Still amounts to the same thing, obviously. But the vast majority that responded to this said that they did. So we thought we were on pretty solid ground. And then with the results back, it was soundly defeated. And I do mean soundly defeated. So at any rate, it caught us by surprise, I think. I know it caught me by surprise, because I thought we would do much better on it than what we did, based upon the information that we had been receiving. So anyway, we are going to try it again. And if that's the definition of insanity, then so be it, then, but we are going to try one more time. And hopefully we're going to be able to have people a little bit more informed and be in a position to be able to inform them better. Because they go together. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so after reading it, were there any questions you felt like didn't get answered, or you think that people might have questions about that I had not considered? I tried to kind of poll a couple of people and say, okay, if I were going to give you information, what would the questions be that you would ask? And that's kind of how I came up with them. But are there any that jumped out at you, like, hey, if I were somebody, I would want to know this?
I thought you did a good job.
As I told you already, I thought that you did an excellent job with that. I don't have any further suggestions.
Okay.
Council, any of you have anything?
Thank you for doing that.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to, it'll be a little bit smaller so that we can fit it in the water bill, but we'll have them available here at City Hall, and then I'll give you all copies of it so that, when you get cornered in the grocery store, you are able to, provide good information. And then, yes, Councilor Campbell, if you want to do something, I think you and Melinda had done something on the radio for the fire truck levy a couple of years back. So So yeah, whatever you can do. And then, like I said, Mr. Newdall and I can answer questions about like, what is the money for, if people want to see. We're also going to post the pavement study that this is based on the website, so folks can see, you know, exactly where the engineer identified areas that needed to be repaired. And then it will be up to the council on what you decide are priorities for those projects. You know, they listed them, but that way it's completely transparent. People can see, you know, what are we basing this decision on. And I would just say that, like, the only frustration I can say that I've had is that I know that there's a large segment of people that go to Brookings to buy their gas at Fred Meyer. And I would just say that every time you go to Fred Meyer to buy your gas, you're helping to repair Brookings roads. And I would really love it if you would help repair our roads instead of Brookings. So.
All right, are we through with that? Yes, sir, or yes, ma'am?
Can I get this material in Word format?
Yeah, yep.
All right. What I'm going to do real quickly, Administrator, we're looking at the continued review of the draft code amendments for short-term vacation rentals.
Yes.
What are we looking at as far as time there? Do you have any idea? Because if we're looking at more time, then I'd like to see right off the bat, I'd like to call a recess. We've been here since 6 o'clock. And
10 minutes? Like 10 minutes?
10 minutes on this?
No, I mean, like for a break?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and call a recess for no later than 8 o'clock, roughly about 10 minutes or so. So feel free to get up, stretch your legs a little bit. Go ahead and continue on with the review of the draft code amendments for the short-term vacation rentals.
Okay, so, and I just realized that I forgot to call Lincoln City today because I was doing some other things, but were there any other, and I'm going to ask Councilor Kaufman because she was the one that kind of started, I didn't have any notes from last month. Were there other things that I didn't capture?
Yeah, the
Okay.
biggest part was we were going to do 10 in the residential zones, not 10 in 1R, 10 in 2R, 10 in 3R.
And I had that note.
Yeah, but I didn't see it changed here.
No, I mean,
Yeah, you have
That was-
anything else to change, and it's like, it's not changed.
no, I didn't change it. That was the
Okay.
section that the attorney put in there. I had my notes that we were going to say 10 just for the residential, but was there any other notes from the prior meeting?
I think that'll do it, and then we can look at it like on an annual basis and see if it's working.
Okay,
How does that sound?
okay.
Feasible?
Okay, and then for the item F, where it said the permit for vacation rental will expire upon the 12th consecutive month of the dwelling failing to report or submit. I think that needs to be reworked, and we did talk about that last month, that, okay, I don't think it should be failing to report, but maybe 12 consecutive months of inactivity.
No income.
Yeah, because we require them to report, they just have to tell me we didn't have any rental, but they still have to report. But so instead of failing to report, but just saying that inactivity, and then do you want it to come back? Usually the residential ones have a conditional use permit, and maybe we could put that in the standards governing vacation rental use. It starts on page 35 and goes to page 36. Maybe we could add that as an I and just say if the unit is, if there's inactivity for 12 months, then it'll come back before the planning commission. And then that way.
12 consecutive months? 12
Yeah.
months.
Well, yeah, 12 months. Because there's some people that do like 6 months in the summertime, and but then Councilor Kaufman was saying something about the new state lodging,
It's going to get hard with new law.
yeah,
You
that they,
can't force them to leave.
okay. So if we're okay with that, I'll add section I in the conditions, and what that is that when they get issued a permit, those are the standard conditions that everyone gets, and then if it's at the hearing, if there's any like particular special concerns about a particular location, like parking or whatever, the planning commission can add additional conditions, but these are ones that all of them get. So,
Sounds good.
okay, so then I will have the draft version of the code amendment for the zoning code for you next month. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember our answers to his questions?
Yes. Yes.
Anything further on that? All right, I think Councilor Madison and Brennan have something to discuss.
And
The subcommittee work.
do you want to mention that TGM from Darren, the grant thing?
Sure.
Okay, which one of you would like to start it off? Councilor Madison. All right.
Well, Councilor Brennan and I have been communicating with ODOT and have outlined a tentative schedule that we will share as soon as we get that solidified, but I think we have a meeting with ODOT on Friday at 3, and then we're looking the third week, maybe the 4th of March, for our first community meeting. The second one, likely the third week of April, and then bring results to the council in May. So we've been busy. We've disseminated all the invitees that we want to make sure were placed at the table, and collected all of the pros and cons, resources that we have, dissected that information. And then we'll garner the rest of that from ODOT this Friday. And then we'll start promoting those meetings this coming weekend, I guess.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
we can house about 70 people in this room. If it looks like you're getting a lot of interest, we may have to have it somewhere else.
That's fine. Oh, the TGM that you had mentioned, Darren Eagle had emailed us and said that there's no funding available. So there's a little bit of a carrot there to really look at what the potential of this project could have on the city of Blue Beach.
Thank you. Councilor Brennan, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I do.
Yes, sir.
I think, yeah, what we want to do is we want to meet with ODOT and then make sure that, like Councilor Madison said, we know that Main Street wants to be involved. So once we get some information that we need, then we're going to go with them and then just keep expanding.
That's a good idea. Okay, thank you. Thank you both very much. All right. Now we've got the budget committee calendar dates that we would like to discuss.
Okay, everybody get their calendars out. So typically we start in April, and usually it's like mid-April. I would prefer, mid to late April, because this is every fourth year we do a salary study, and then also the Teamsters contract is up this year too, which that's why we do the salary study at the same time. So that I have started that, but I still have a ways to go on that, and then just the normal budget prep. So like the week of the 20th or the week of the 27th, how does that look for folks? And okay, Mr. Chance, sorry.
Well, you usually plan.
I was going to call you Mr. Craig. It's like, no, it's not Mr. Craig.
Yeah.
And usually we get done in one night, but we try to do 2 nights, and they don't necessarily have to be consecutive because we've skipped like a night in between before. But usually we get through it in one evening, but plan on 2.
Try to keep it as close together as possible.
Just because that way it's fresh in everybody's memory.
Right, exactly?
So the week of April 20th or the week of April 27th, which would be the, April actually has 5 weeks this year, so it would be the 4th and 5th week of April. And we can start, you know, most of you guys have day jobs, so we can start like as early as you want after work gets over.
This is the one you make us dinner.
Yes, yes. That's the rule. If it's before 6 p.m., I feed you guys, so, yeah.
I'm open all of the 20th, that whole week.
Okay, Counselor Kaufman, you travel, so,
My calendar says I'm supposed to be home the 23rd and 24th.
okay, so how does that look for people, 23rd and 24th?
That works for me, I can't do the 20th.
Good.
Counselor Campbell?
I'm available the 23rd and 24th.
Okay, perfect, all right.
Now, I may not be, okay?
Okay,
But then I am not, as far as the budget committee is concerned, the mayor doesn't have any other role other than, you know, I can offer suggestions or that type of thing. But the budget committee is handled by the city council and generally speaking, 5 citizens, and work together on that. So whoever they elect as their chairperson is the one that does the actual running of the budget committee.
okay, so,
My presence is not absolutely necessary.
Is that at 5:30 now?
that's the other thing. Do you guys want to start at 5 or 5:30? Because I know you guys get off at 5, so do we want to say 5:30?
I can flex, so I'm flexible.
I can do whatever.
5:30 then?
5:30?
Let's start at 5.
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
5?
Okay, so 5 p.m. on April 23rd. And I'll send you a reminder too.
So you usually deliver the packets a week before?
By state law, yes, I have to have them to you a week ahead of time.
I'll be home sometime today.
Okay. Okay,
All right.
so the 23rd, so my drop dead date is the 16th. Okay, that was easy.
All right, good enough.
Okay.
City administrator, you got a report, I assume, for us?
Real quickly, may I add one thing to the agenda, Mr. Mayor? This was this one. And he's not here, but I said that I would talk about it. This is the Mateer Road.
Okay, I didn't thought.
Okay. And I thought it was going to come
Until we got
tonight.
citizens' comments afterwards, but, no, this is fine right now.
Okay,
Let's go
and
ahead
then I'll
and
just
get
do
it out.
that. Okay, so I gave you copies of the photos. Mr.,
Click.
yeah, I can't think of his last name.
Johnson.
Talk about having moments here. Mr. Johnson, who's the neighbor out
Oh, sorry.
by the Crook property.
Oh.
Okay, I sent Anthony out there today to take some more photos, and yes, there's portions of it that are falling down now. But I had Anthony check, my Anthony, and he has gotten through his septic stuff. He just finally was able to get through that in January. So DEQ has issued him a permit. So I told Anthony to contact him today. I don't know if he left him a message, so I don't know if he got through to him, to say, okay, you need to move forward on your building permit, because the plan was that he was going to take it down and replace it with a manufactured home. So now that he's got his DEQ approval, because that was kind of what Councilor Kaufman was kind of waiting to see, because if he took the building down beforehand, that they may not have let him. But he does have his permit now with DEQ. So what I was hoping from you guys tonight is that I could send him another letter saying, okay, you have this much time to get your building permit and get that building down. So how much of that, this much time you have? Or at least get the building down.
30 days.
So next council meeting?
By then,
Okay.
I would think.
Okay.
Council, what do you guys think?
It's got to get down. He
Yeah,
can't
it
keep.
does.
It's been going on for years.
Okay,
Yeah.
We've been very, very, very generous.
okay, and I will say
Very
that
much
too.
so. So give them 30 days.
He's got very nice weather right now, too.
And that was what my Anthony had said earlier, that, weather's good now, so.
Yeah,
Okay, so by next council meeting,
exactly.
building down. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, so, CA report, Public Works, and I think poor Will sit here through this whole meeting thinking that there was a couple of topics that we might need him for, and so, no, that didn't happen. But it would have happened if you weren't here, yeah. So, Public Works finished, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, finished clearing out the new park property. And if you have the opportunity, please go look at it. This is the east end. If you go to the parking lot, you can just walk right across the little bridge. And the flat area there is just beautiful. It is going to be so nice in the summertime. It's a little bowl in there. There's not going to be any wind. They cut kind of a nice little trail up the hill. The disc golf people have been just going crazy putting new baskets in down there. So it's a really, I mean, we were happy to get the property, but now that we've seen it all cleared, it's a fabulous addition to the park. It's really great.
It reminds me of Humbug.
It's really nice in there. Yeah, and the flat spot is big enough that, you know, like somebody could have like a family reunion or something down there. It's a pretty large area. So that was nice. Police, the stats are there. As Councilor Pagano said, Corporal Warren is officially no longer with us. He just decided, he had invested in some local property and he decided he wanted to continue doing that. So his last day was the 21st of last month, and you know, we wish him the best of luck on his new venture. So he's going to be a land baron now. Fire, we did have a structure fire this month. It was just a couple weeks ago. It's the plaza between Ireland's and the Beachcomber. It's where Chris Cusink used to have his office, but he's not there anymore. Now it's just the Ireland's Plaza. Thankfully, no one was inside when the fire happened, but Chief Krieger said that he wanted everyone to know that the new engine was utilized. That's what put out the fire, and he said, and I said, well, I'm going to quote you on this. He said, we drove right up to that window, and with the bow mount gun, we snuffed it out. So he is a trained fire investigator, and there's one other person on our crew that is also. And I don't know that they've completed their investigation on what the cause of the fire was. But thankfully, it was just in the south end of the building. It didn't get the whole building.
Is there anybody in it? Is anybody running it?
On the north end of the building, that's where the Pilates studio is, and she actually came in and talked to me last week about, you know, like when could they move in and when could they do things, and I said, well, that's really not, I mean, that's kind of more of a question for your insurance company, because we don't really, we just put the fire out and try to determine what it is, but whether the building is safe to be in, that's...
Yeah, the rumor is that it was arson, so...
Yeah, that I don't know, because like I said, Chief Krieger's, as far as I know, the investigation report hasn't been completed yet. But, so I got the lady that has a Pilates studio, I gave her some information on how to get a hold of somebody higher up in her insurance company, so hopefully they can help her. But thankfully, there wasn't anybody in the building at the time of the fire. So, but we don't often have structure fires, so that's kind of a big deal. Gearing up for budget season in the front office. I do want to say those boxes over there, those are bags, and I gave you guys a copy, I gave you each a bag. Those are the bags that we will be taking to the San Francisco show. That was the bag that went to the Vancouver show. We do a regional booth with Travel Southern Oregon Coast and a couple other local partners, and that's the bag that we'll be taking. So those will all be stuffed and gone next month. And the folks up front do all the bag stuffing for me, which is really fabulous. So I just wanted to let my front office know I appreciate them. And Lindsay actually helped us too last time. All the hoorah over the COVID-19 virus. You might have noticed when you came in, there was a thing on the door about how to, you know, keep yourself safe. The big thing, I did a memo to everybody in employee-wise and just said, you know, the big thing is just, you know, don't panic, but, you know, common sense, wash your hands. If you think that don't go to places where there's lots of people gathering, that type of thing. But I put the information in there from the Oregon Health Authority, so just, if you get asked, that's information that the state puts out. This is, not that it's the same as cold and flu season, but the rules are kind of the same. Wash your hands, clean things up. We've been doing more disinfecting on a higher level every day, wiping down the door and the counter and things like that, just to make sure.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yep. And then the Vancouver show that we just got back from, actually no, let me back up. Last float season started February 1st. This year was way better than last year. Last year we got hit hard by the road slide, and we never really recovered from that. Even after the road got repaired, I think people were still afraid to come over. So 3,823 visitors at the visitor center. That's a record for float season. And Naomi reported that 1,000 of them were over the Valentine weekend because they do a special red float drop just for Valentine's Day. So we had 1,000 visitors over Valentine's weekend that just checked in at the visitor center. I mean, there could have been more. So that was pretty cool. And the biggest turn-in for receipts, we had over $48,000 in receipts turned in for free floats. And for those of you that may not know, if you spend $25 or more in one of the participating stores, bring your receipt to the visitor center, we give you a free float. But we write down how much the receipt was for, and then we let the businesses know at the end of the season how much of their receipts were turned in. So 48,000 was like over 10,000 more than our highest month prior to that. So that's good, because last year things were not so good. Anthony did the Eugene and Medford sports shows this year. I did the Roseburg one because we have family over there and we stay with them. We did the new show in Vancouver, BC. That was last weekend. That's why I moved the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it was an awesome show. It was really, it was kind of interesting. I was telling Mr. Mayor this earlier that it's 10 hours to Vancouver, BC. It's 9 hours to San Francisco. And even though we've been doing the San Francisco show, this will be our 8th year. People, they don't even know where Oregon is in California. I mean, when they're like, where are you? Yeah, and so it's like we spend the whole show trying to teach them basic geography and where the redwoods are that they don't even know are in their state. In BC, it was like, I would say probably 85% of the people that came to our booth, not only did they know where the Oregon coast was, but about 50% of them had actually been to Gold Beach. They knew right where we were. And that was amazing. After the first day, I told the people the next day, I said, when we go to San Francisco, I'm going to shame the Americans because the Canadians know Gold Beach better than the Californians do.
Well,
So,
we can be thankful for that.
yeah, I mean, it was awesome. And they were just, and everything you hear, the stereotype of the Canadians, it was true. They were so nice, they were so pleasant. I was telling Mr. Mayor that when we got into Vancouver, there was this out-of-service bus that said out of service, and then it flashed, sorry. And I thought, I actually texted my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, even their bus apologized. It was amazing. But the venue where they had it was really wonderful. It was a really classy joint. There's some pictures there of the outside of the place. So we are totally doing the show next year, and I think I have our regional group pretty much talked into going with us next year, because where we were at, we had a whole block of Oregon, so which was kind of cool. We had Travel Oregon, we had Klamath, we had Travel Southern Oregon. They had us next to Portland, but but hopefully TSOC is probably going to go with us next year, so then we'll have a bigger presence. But it was a really great show, so I'm glad we went. And that's it. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, Council Madison, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
I'll be quick. Let's see, the housing forum for this year has been established. It's going to be October 3rd. And the last meeting we did some strategic planning, 1 year and 5 year goals. You might have heard HGTV was doing a hometown takeover.
Yes.
So,
Where did they take over?
well, they haven't decided yet.
What do we have to do to get them to come here?
Well, the deadline's already passed. So me and my cell phone went on a little mission in town. And I made a video and took lots of photos and, did a big write-up and submitted that, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I took one for the team, because the last thing I want is my face on TV.
Well, thank you. That's awesome.
Road diet updates, we did that. Gas tax, I'm away from that. Night sky ordinance, hopefully we can have a conversation about that next month. Next meeting. I can send some emails and information if you'd like, but it's something that has been brought up several times in Brookings, and hoping that we can do it countywide. I think it would be a benefit for tourism and accenting the ocean and the night sky. We don't have a super big city here, so we have the opportunity to kind of keep that in check.
What's this in conjunction with? I'm sorry, Council, I did not hear the very first part of which part.
It's a night sky ordinance, and so it's basically just more control of the light, so it's not,
Oh, okay.
there's no light pollution,
Uh-huh.
it's more controlled.
Port Orford has it,
I was
and
gonna say that.
it's where like the lights are, where they point down and not up.
Right.
So that way, you get to an unobstructed view of the night sky.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I just did not know, I did not hear at the beginning. Is there anything further, ma'am?
Working with the chamber on revitalization, as you know, we were talking about doing countywide chamber type service. So met with chambers and, said, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue and revitalize? And they all do. So with the exception of Port Orford. So anyways, Gold Beach is got some great board members. They have more openings. They're always looking for memberships, but I think they're looking to bring more substance and focus less on tourism and more on business development and supportive services like that. So I'm pretty excited for the leadership they have there right now. Travel Southern Oregon is bringing a online marketing 101 course to the library on April 8th. And it's an all-day event for $10. They even pay for lunch. So kind of pushing that in hopes that people take advantage of that. I think that's all I've got.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Brennan?
I don't have any.
Councilor Pagano?
Just another reminder that the jet boats are almost here. Memorial Day weekend.
Well, baseball season's coming up too. Yeah. Councilor Campbell?
I wanted to talk a little bit about the event center on the beach and the roof project.
Okay.
We submitted or requested sealed bids for the roof on the event center. We published the bid request not only in the local newspaper but in a statewide journal that you post bids on, that construction companies look at. Unfortunately, we did not receive any bids for the roof at the event center. So our city administrator awesomely came up with a list of local contractors that are large enough that we are going to invite them to bid, basically.
Good.
The good thing is we got an email from a construction company who said, hey, we missed the bid on the roof. Can we submit one? So we do have one company that is interested in re-roofing Dosha Suite at the event center, and the event center manager, Caitlin Coleman, is going to seek other bids as well.
And I'm going to send you that email right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, they have reserved the entire month of August for the new roof. They're not renting out that event center, that specific, the Dosha Suite, for that entire month in anticipation of getting the roof. So I'm not gonna drop the ball. We'll get somebody out there to do that darn roof. We have the money for it. We've got the time blocked off. All we need is
Someone
to
to
get
do it.
a willing person to come to our remote little village on the coast and build that roof, so.
This is a good time of year to get bids too, because you're not that busy.
I was hoping that we would already have a bid in our pocket by now, because I know that the bigger companies, plan their summers specifically for their roofing projects, and I didn't want to get behind the 8 ball on that. So I'll continue to work on that, and hopefully by next month I'll have good news for you.
Looking forward to it. All right, thank you. Councilor Kaufman.
I resigned from the core team of the Housing Task Force. Thankfully, Summer is on that, so we can also have great representation. And I promised to work on a couple of tasks, and one of them was a toolkit for somebody who wants to develop in the area. If each city has a toolkit that says, here's who does what, here who does this, and maybe even a staff member that'll hold somebody's hand and say, okay, let me introduce you to the building inspector, or let me show you where this is. And so I think Jody and Anthony will do most of the work on that if I just encourage them.
He's good.
And so that was an easy volunteer thing to do. And I have one other thing, but I don't remember what it was, and so it can't be that important, right? But that was my big...
Well, if you happen to remember the other thing, then feel free to jump in.
I
Yes, ma'am.
had one thing that I forgot to mention. I had it sitting here. You probably have heard our former Fire Chief Bruce Floyd passed away. And he'd been fighting cancer for some time. So his brother got a hold of me and asked, and I said that I would talk to the council about it, and I would say ponder it and we'll talk about it next month. But he was hoping for the years of service that Bruce had put into the city that that the city would be willing to name the fire hall in his honor. And so I said that I would talk to you guys about that, and you can let me know next month what you think about that. His service, he just contacted me today. They were going to have the service in May, but the service is going to be in June now. June 13th, it will be a celebration of life, and I will let everyone know that. But think about that, if you'd be willing to name the fire hall the Bruce Floyd Memorial Fire Hall.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. No, Councilor Campbell.
I think that's an awesome idea, but I want input from Chief Krieger and the firemen.
Yep.
If they're cool with it, I'm cool with it, but I don't want to step on their toes. So
Absolutely.
solicit their, not that you wouldn't, but make sure that it's cool with them.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Kaufman.
I was cleaning my stuff off because I knew there was a couple things that maybe just read it and I forgot. We need to make a motion from the executive session.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
Would you like me to
indeed.
make that motion?
Yes, ma'am, I would. Thank you, and thank you very much for reminding me.
So in executive session, we had a discussion to discuss legal advice, and from that, I have a motion to have the city attorney and city staff negotiate an easement at tax lot 3615, 368800.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Motion has been made, it has been seconded. Discussion. Question. Aye.
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 Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you for remembering that.
Yes, definitely.
Because tomorrow I will remember.
Is there anything further, ma'am?
That was it.
All right. I don't have an awful lot, a lot of things going on, but I think something is cute that I do want to share with everybody. I'm on the ORCA board, and it meets, it's out of Coos Bay. And I like to think that they like me there. And lo and behold, I was given this by the board chair lady, a little, whatever they call it.
Fleece blanket.
Yeah. This is, Matt, this is photo worthy.
And what does it say, Mr. Mayor? Let me read that. Oh, goodness. Mayor Carl Papa.
Oh, it's got a bench!
Beloved Mayor, Carl Bob. So anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. And I think Margie already knows this, but I got him to the point where when we go around each meeting, you have introductions. And I've got them down so that when my turn comes up to the introductions, I would just say Carl Papa, and then they all chime in, beloved Mayor of Gold Beach. That's cool, huh? You gotta know how to train. At any rate, I thought that was pretty doggone cool. And so, with that in mind, I don't have anything else. And probably a few minutes there that you didn't need either. But we have an opportunity at this time as well to have citizen comments. So if there's anyone out there that would like to say anything, then you've got roughly about 3 minutes. And if not, then I will, is there anybody? I want to give you a little bit of time. Okay, that's enough time. We, prior to the regular meeting, we did hold an executive session. And the executive session was pursuant to ORS 192, period 660, parentheses 2, parentheses E, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the city to negotiate real property transactions, and ORS 192, period 660, parentheses 2, parentheses small f, to consider written advice for our attorney. That's what we were doing prior to you coming in. All right. And effective October 2019, I know that we did it on the second Monday, which in the past has been the traditional Monday for us to hold our city council meetings. But in October, this past October, we voted to change that to the first Monday. This month was a little bit different because plans were made prior to October, one of them, of course, being the city administrator and the show that she had to attend in Canada. And I think one of the councilors, Councilor Campbell, had already arranged for a vacation. So that's why we brought it back to the second. But they do, as a rule, unless something comes up, they will be held on the first Monday of each and every month. Therefore, the next one will be held April 6th, and it'll be at 6:30, and it'll be right here. So with that in mind, I will welcome a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. These motions in seconds are some of the fastest that you'll see. I'm not even going to bother with discussion. Questions?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We are dismissed. Thank you all for being here. Carl, thank you for doing this. Chief, thank you so much for keeping us safe, bud.